So guys, I'm about to tell you how I've managed to buy a chunk of Travelodge. This isn't something that you want to miss. It's great returns and it's fucking exciting. So to break all these numbers down, we're gonna head back to the office and tell you exactly what sort of percentage return and yield you can achieve from this.
So let's talk about the details behind my investment into Travelodge within Chigwell. It's an institutional grade investment. What does that mean? It means that these are investments that are super hard for retail or any random investor to be able to go into from a property perspective. Now there's a trick behind this because any individual can invest from £1,000 upwards into this Travelodge, and that's what I've taken advantage of. So I've invested £100,000 of my own money into the Travelodge within Chigwell. Now I've done that based on the fact that the property is owned by none other than Tab. So Tab is the company that holds the building and Travelodge is the tenant that is paying Tab the monthly rental yield. So you have a company here that makes hundreds of millions of pounds per annum. As the tenant, you know that you don't have to keep looking for new tenants every single year, and you've got really good percentage returns on your money. So the overall projected returns per annum is 10.12%, and for me I think that's a fantastic return with a net yield of 7.62%. Now with this, it's super exciting because from this point there's actual fractional ownership. So not only am I investing into this to get a rental yield, I'm actually an owner of the property, which means that I get capital gains upside. So with the property, if the property is going to increase in value over the years that it's held, let's say it appreciates by 2 to 3% per annum, I also have that uplift as well from the property. So if you imagine that you're trying to get involved into the property market and you're trying to invest say £10,000, it's going to be difficult for you to be able to access opportunities like this with such little capital, but also have the safety blanket of knowing that it's sort of like an institutional grade investment. So with this opportunity, it's super exciting because overall the tenant is Travelodge. This is a 36 bedroom Travelodge with over 11,000 square foot. Now personally I've invested over £100,000 into this, and I'm going to get a great yield of over 10.12% per annum and a net yield of 7.62% per annum. Now from that, I think that's absolutely amazing to be able to achieve that. And with this property from Travelodge, the annual rent is over £280,000 per annum. So it's a great investment. And let's be honest, Travelodge isn't going anywhere. Their profits are fantastic, and we don't have to worry about trying to find a new tenant every single year because ultimately Travelodge isn't going anywhere. And so ultimately we've got a lease with Travelodge which doesn't end until 2035. So we know that we've got a tenant that's pretty much guaranteed for that entire period of time. So we've got not only the rental yield, we've also got the appreciation on the property in itself. So this is a great investment. I put £100,000 into that. It's an institutional grade investment. What does that mean? It means that these are investments that are super hard for retail or any random investor to be able to go into from a property perspective. One of the massive benefits of this is that if you're trying to get into property, and you've got to imagine that stress level being able to go into property, you've got to have a large amount of capital up front, you've got to make sure that you've got a tenant, you've got to make sure they don't miss their monthly payments and all of this aspect. With the great part about Tab and being involved with Tab, you can go from as little as £1,000 and you get the exact same outcome as someone like myself who's invested £100,000. You're going to get the same rental yield, you're going to get the same capital appreciation on the property as well. So this is a great level to be able to get into the markets and be able to be behind something with such a big brand like Travelodge. Now here is the ultimate catch. Now usually when you invest into property, you cannot exit it unless you sell the building. Because this is such a high value, high interest investment, the best part about Tab is that Tab will ultimately, if you want to exit, you can phone them up and they will take your investment out and give it straight back to you. So let's say you was invested for 5 or 6 months but you really needed that capital, you can take your investment straight back from Tab, enjoy the 6 months rental that you've had and move on. That is how in demand that this investment actually is. So being able to take advantage of that, this is ultimately making property become more liquid within the markets. And where else can you do that? You can't invest into property until you sell it. Ultimately, the overall exit for this property is to look to sell it within a 5-year window. So after 5 years, what will happen is you obviously have the capital appreciation. What Tab will do is they will then relist this Travelodge back onto their platform to allow new investors to come in and old investors to come out. So if you wanted to take that money off the table from the capital appreciation, you can look to do that via Tab. And being able to make property liquid is so attractive within this current environment and ultimately isn't something that you can really do anywhere else. So from a tenant perspective, how safe is Travelodge? While their EBITDA in 2022 for the first 6 months was over 70 million profit. So when we look at that from a perspective, is this tenant going to be at risk or are they going to go anywhere? You can pretty much see there from the amount of money that they've made that they're going to be very reliable in making sure that they pay their rent on a month-on-month basis.
So we're going to go and grab Duncan Kreeger. He's the CEO and founder of Tab. We're going to discuss this a little bit more in detail and exactly how I've managed to get my hands on being able to get a slice of this Travelodge.
Hey Sam.
Hey! Good to see you, mate.
All right, good to see you, mate.
So we've obviously got Travelodge.
Yeah.
Big day.
Very big day. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, awesome to be
Thanks
here.
for choosing to invest in this building as well.
Yeah.
I'm super excited that Tab's bringing this building to market. Obviously a household brand in Travelodge, 18 years of income. It's a really fantastic place to put your money, in my opinion. That's why we're doing it as a firm, and I'm pleased you're doing it as well.
So I mean, in total with Travelodge, it's like it's over 10%, isn't it? In
Yeah, total return. So the rent that we receive from Travelodge as a tenant will be paid to investors on a monthly basis. So it's just over 7.5%, and you receive that into your bank account on a monthly basis. So Tab takes care of all of the management, collecting the rent and repairs and maintenance as well. So we keep a little pot aside in reserves, so that the amount that you receive, that 7.6%, is net of absolutely everything.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, we believe there'll be capital growth in the building for a number of reasons, actually. Firstly, because the Travelodge lease continues to increase over time.
Yeah.
And also, we think property is a good place to put your money. We're buying at an interesting time in the market where you can get sort of better deals than you have been able to for a long time, because commercial property's taken a bit of a hit, mainly due to the price of debt.
Yep.
So the idea here is this is another way to invest in a building like this without having to get a mortgage.
Yeah. And so from like my perspective, obviously I'm investing 100,000 into it.
You are.
Great yields from that perspective, but can it, from other people investing into it, I know they can do it as little as 1,000. Do they actually like own part of this, or how does that work?
Yeah, so I mean, legally the structure is that a Tab owned company owns the property, and the property's held in trust for investors that invest.
Yep.
So if you and I bought the property 50-50 via Tab, then Tab would hold the building in trust for the two of us on a pro rata basis. But if we have 100 people or 1,000 people, it works in exactly the same way. So it's a very well trodden path. Legally, it's the way that we've operated our lending business for kind of 400-500 million of loans.
Yeah.
So it works really well.
And I suppose like when you're looking at it, so you, basically anyone from £1,000 upwards can do exactly the same as what I'm doing right now.
Sure.
Through Tab.
Yeah.
Come and get a chunk of Travelodge.
Yeah, for sure.
Get the exact same percentage returns that I get, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, exactly. The idea is we want to open up these types of investments to much more people that couldn't access it normally. So yeah, you can go to tabhq.com, you can sign up as an investor. We take you through automated AML and KYC checks, so we know who you are and where your money comes from. It's relatively easy to open an account. You can do it all on your phone or on your desktop. And then you can pick and choose these types of properties, the ones that suit you. So we're not sort of telling people where to put their money. We're just bringing different deals to market, ones that we've vetted. So we spent a long time looking for this investment, actually. We've looked at over 350 different properties.
Okay.
So Danny Netzer in the office has looked at over £1 billion worth of property.
Yeah.
Because that's part of the service that Tab's bringing, is that it's one thing, the time that's required to go and actually find a good investment, to read through the lease, to look at the tenant. In this case, Travelodge is a very robust business. I mean, they turn over £1 billion every year, make nearly £200 million profit. So we believe they're a very good long-term tenant, and that's really important to us. So you might find other buildings that have a higher headline yield, but they might have shorter income. So we've done a lot of work trying to find this building. It's not like, right, we're chucking this on.
Yeah, here we go.
Here we go, yeah.
I suppose from like your point of view, why are you actually opening up the doorways for sort of mass market, for smaller investors to be able to come and join Tab and be able to invest into this sort of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it's just super important to me. I've been in property and real estate for my whole working career, over 20 years, and I think it's really difficult to buy these types of things.
Yeah.
Typically you have to save up a huge deposit, and then you have to borrow 10 times more than that in debt. The cost of debt, obviously, now's good timing. It doesn't always work out exactly as you would expect, and you could have bought this building with a lot of debt, have many years of good returns, but now your rent would all just be going to pay the bank.
Yep.
And I just think people don't have access to this as an asset class. When I look online, I see you can invest in gold and wine and art and classic cars. There's so much real estate, and it should be sort of brought into the modern day.
Yeah. I think, like, for me and my perspective, the one thing I really liked about it was like actually how you're trying to make the property side liquid. If you're actually going to buy a property, you're stuck in it unless you sell it. How on earth have you sort of like managed to make it liquid for people?
That's a good question. First, it's a slow process, so we're definitely not saying it's liquid like the stock market, where you'll always have a buyer and a seller. But I think your point on liquidity is a good point. So even if you had saved up a deposit and you did get a mortgage to buy this property, the only way to get your income out of that property would be to put it on the market, wait for somebody to come along to get approved for a loan and buy this property, and that process typically can take 3 or 6 months for a building like this in this time. What we're doing is the same way that we're listing this building for the first time, and you've invested 100,000. What you could then do is say, right, I want to sell my £100,000 share. That then goes back into the tab market so that other people can come and buy that share off you in the future. And so we've been doing that with loans in a kind of off loan environment for a long time. And we're constantly, Tab's all about kind of bringing new technology to market. We're working a lot with AI at the moment, ways to improve efficiencies all across the business. So to think that you could invest in this building, have £1,000, and if you needed your money, you can come back to us and we'll find another investor to take over. It is actually revolutionary.
When you've got something that's like this in demand, I don't think there's going to be too many issues, especially on sizes like that, trying to get out of it.
No, not at all. And also, the longer history there is, the longer track record there is. You know, once people build up more confidence, they see their rents coming in every month. What we've seen from people before on the loan side is we typically go back to the people that own that asset already and say there's another 10,000 available, and people that have confidence in it tend to pick it up that way.
Awesome, sounds awesome.
So guys, if you want to get involved in this giveaway, I'm giving away an iPhone 15 Pro or £1,000 worth of value in Travelodge. The choice is yours. The giveaway is now live on my Instagram, which is in the description and the link that's showing on the screen now. I wish you the best of luck.